Hi, Julie Jones from SSB Performance, Smarter, Stronger, Better Mindset Training, here with this week's Mindset Made Simple Tip of the Week, brought to you by Game Day Sportswear. Shop GameDaySportswear.net. You can get anything you need done, screening, engraving, you name it. Gina Bennett does it all. This week, we are talking about the fact that 90% of all the athletes surveyed, or Olympic athletes surveyed, use mental rehearsal. 90%. Take that one step further, and what the research shows is that 97% of that 90% said that mental rehearsal, visualization, imagery, whatever you want to call it, improved their performance. They believed it improved their performance. So the question is, are you using it? Is your team using it? Are those you lead using it? I don't care if you're a coach, a leader, a salesperson, someone that has important conversations. We can all use this innate gift of being able to see things in our mind's eye. We all see things. You, as a kid, probably saw yourself hit the winning home run at the World Series, or catch the winning touchdown at the Super Bowl, or shoot that game-ending shot, fadeaway, of course, to win whatever championship you were playing out in your head. And maybe you pictured yourself singing on a stage in front of a sold-out stadium. Or maybe all these were just me. But I know that, especially as a kid, you saw things. You still do. You watch yourself do things in your head. And more importantly, or more detrimentally maybe, you watch yourself screw up. And all these things make a difference. We can improve our performance by mentally rehearsing whatever it is that we're about to do, or whatever it is that we want to do, or even the things that we've done before. We can use those to make ourselves better. And we're going to talk about how. We've talked about this numerous times, but I'm teaching this tomorrow, actually, in my sport behavior class at Akron, so it's top of mind again. And I mentioned last week in the 5 lessons learned through a cancer diagnosis that I use mental rehearsal with Dr. Ziegler 3 days a week. And at that point, I had no empirical evidence. Well, there was there, but I didn't have it all, that said that that made a difference for me. But I'm going to tell you a couple things that might convince you that it did help me for numerous reasons. But let's talk about imagery, rehearsal, whatever it is. We know that mental rehearsal is basically picturing what it is that we do. And I've got some, Dr. Richard Swin, a pioneer in sports psychology, says visualization allows the brain to send a message to the muscles about what to do. We're making a mental blueprint or a mental playbook so that we can execute as we want to. It's essentially a form of mental practice that can enhance physical performance. Now, this does not mean that it replaces physical practice, but all studies show that mental rehearsal enhances physical practice. In fact, those that are injured can use mental rehearsal and lose less and perform better when they come out than those who don't. So mental rehearsal on its own is better than nothing. It's not better than practice alone, but it enhances practice. Those that practice physically versus those that practice physically and use mental rehearsal, this group over here, the mental rehearsal and physical practice group, performs better for all kinds of reasons. Confidence, consistency, precision, emotional control, looking for problems and figuring out solutions. There's a million reasons why this tool is so vitally important that we use it. But here's the thing. We all think that we have to have this monk-like discipline to be able to do it, or we sit around kumbayaing for 20 minutes to mentally rehearse. And yes, it is good at times to get relaxed and lay down or find a comfortable place and run through what it is that we want to do. But that's not necessary. We can use mental rehearsal anywhere and everywhere. We can use it sitting at a traffic light. We can use it sitting in between games. We can use it pre-game. We can use it post-game. We can use it during the game. We can use it before we walk up to the box. We can use it at the foul line. We can use it as we're dribbling down the court to picture what it is that we want. That may be pretty rapid, but it takes that much time. In fact, pace is one of the things, pace and timing and perspective are a couple of things that we're going to talk about here in a minute. But we want to be sure, no matter where we're doing it, that we watch what we want. I mentioned a couple of tips ago that I work with a college football team, or the one college football team that I work with. A guy was telling me, or I was talking with the receivers, and like, we watch ourselves drop passes. Well, that's not where we're going. We want to see what we want. Those that have negative imagery or see themselves doing or thinking about what they don't want to do perform worse. It's like even the mention of missing the bunker makes us find the bunker, is basically what the research says. So we want to be thinking about what we want, not what we're trying to avoid. Just like when we go into a restaurant, we never tell them what we don't want, we tell them what we do want, so that we get what we want. It's the same story here. But here are a few ways that we can use this, and we've talked about these before, but just as a refresher, we can relive it. You can have those you lead or yourself vividly recall their best, their ultimate best, their ESPN top 10 play, the number one on the list. Have them recall everything, what they felt emotionally, what they felt physically as they drove their hands through the ball, or as they threw the ball, or drilled it into the back of the net, whatever it is, feeling everything physiologically and psychologically, emotionally. We need to describe it in great detail. We need to think about what we saw, what was around us, the vividness. Did you feel the sun? Did you see the sun? Were you sweaty? Did you feel the sweat running down your face? What were other people around you doing? What did you hear? We need to ask them to recreate the sounds. You know what the sound of the ball sounds like, the difference between when you drive it and when you don't, especially in golf. You know what the sound sounds like when it swishes through the net. You know what it sounds like coming off your foot when you're kicking it, whether you're a kicker or a soccer player. But the bottom line is that we're listening as well. We're recreating all of the audio images that were there. And then we smell it. You know what your batting glove smells like? It smells like blah. You know what your shoulder pads smell like, or whatever it is, the smells. We want to incorporate all of this into this reliving. And then we recreate it. You can walk them through it. They can walk them through it. They can make themselves an audio tape of it. I make audio tapes for the kids that I work with, and it runs them through their best. Why? Because when we watch ourselves be our best, that's what we're imprinting in our brain. We are priming our brain and our body to do that again, or expect that. That's what we expect. We know what it feels like. We know what it sounds like. We know what we need to do to get there. We're watching what we did to get there, because lots of times after we get there, we forget what we did to get there, and then we don't do it anymore, and we can't get there again, right? Relive. Then we go to number 2, and we talk about rescripting. Something happens that we don't like. We bring up that image again. We watch where the mistake happened. We then immediately pull out the things that need to be adjusted, and we watch it right away. Why? Because now, instead of reliving this mistake that we like to take with us over and over and over, and then when we do that, that's what our brain is imprinting, we now have a renewed and lesson learned mind movie to watch. No, it didn't go how we wanted it to. But if I do this, I'll do it better the next time. And now I watch myself relive that. We rescript it, totally rescript it. And now I'm ready to do what I want to do the next time, instead of thinking about what I'm avoiding doing. And then number 3, again, back to pre-experiencing. Why? All the teams that I work with, before they go to their first contest, we look at pictures of the arena that they're going to be in. Most of the returners have been there, so I asked them to recreate that in their mind. What is the crowd usually like there? What's the weather when you're there? We played in the Mid-American Conference when we went to Toledo. It's always windy. It's flatter than heck out there. It starts almost like the start of the Great Plains, it seems. What does the environment bring to the table? Put yourself there before you get there. Watch yourself move as you would on that court. Watch yourself move as you would on that field, and play it out before we play. Why? Because then our brain is ready for it. Is it going to be exact? No, of course it's not going to be exact, but we are prepping ourselves on what to expect. We know what it looks like. It's not new and it's not scary. We've already been there because we know that our brain and our brain doesn't really know. There's not a lot of difference between what happens and what happens in our mind, the way that the muscles are engaged when we're thinking about things. We want to be sure that we take the time to do that because we watch ourselves shoot, kick, or whatever it is in that environment, and we're now ready to go when we get there. But no matter what, we want to make sure that we see the process of what we're doing before we see the outcome. It is very important to watch the whole succession of from start to finish of a play. That's very important. But if we look ahead to the play or the end of the play before we watch the process of the play, we're really not breaking down the skill or breaking down the emotion that we would have during that time or breaking down anything else. We're just skipping ahead, and that's not going to help us as much. In fact, research proves that those that watched the ball after it came off the racket were not as successful as the people who watched themselves hit the ball off the racket and then finish by watching where the ball goes on the other side of the court in a tennis situation, of course. 3 final things to consider. We need to think about pace, we need to think about perspective, and we need to think about timing or how much. I already mentioned that it didn't need to be like a monk where we sit and we take tons and tons of time, but we do want to think about how much timing there was. The pace of our rehearsal can vary. If we're just learning something new, sometimes it's good to slow it down and take it step by step by step by step. Most athletes report that that's not how they do it, but it's a great practice to get into, something that you may want to offer to those you lead. Look, we're learning a new drill today. Let's take it slow. How can you incorporate this? Tell them what you want and make them take a second and see it. What are they going to be doing after they step to the left? What comes next? And they can take it slow. Those that know what they're doing or have been in this situation numerous times or people with a lot of experience like to do things at game pace. In fact, you can set a timer and take the time of your visualization. So if your race takes 12 seconds, click, watch it all the way through, click when you're done at the end. It should be really close to the time that you want to run. If you're timing an at bat, how long does that take? How long does it take you to step into the box, get your other foot down, take a look at the pitcher? We know the pitcher has 10 seconds or however long she has to present the ball and pitch it. So what is your timing in that? And we want to time it just as it would be in the game so that we know what our pacing needs to be our best. We can control our emotions. We can control our breathing. We can watch ourselves do all those things in this pace. So we want to go in real time in here to match the real time of what the actual skill execution would take. So pacing is important. Number 2, the perspective. Does it matter if we're watching it through our own eyes or like you have a GoPro on your head, or if you're watching it on a movie screen or like the fans would be watching you internally, like from our eyes or externally? No, it doesn't matter. However, being able to do both, it increases performance even more. So why would we choose one or the other? I do both. I have a tendency to switch back and forth, and I think people that mentally rehearse a lot do the same. If we're watching on a movie screen, it's great because we can watch our highlight reel there, right? We can also pick out the skills necessary. We look exactly at what that skill looks like, and we can see what it needs to be. Maybe we watch somebody else, and then we watch ourselves do it. Maybe we watch a video of a professional, and then we watch ourselves execute that same thing with our own skill, strength, and all those kinds of things. But we can see what needs to be done, or we can see what it is that we do. Perfect. The other reason that this outside visualization or external visualization is helpful is because when we watch ourselves do something right, it increases our confidence, right? The efficacy of the fact that we can actually do it. Yeah, that's what I look like. That looks good. Let's implement that in the game. The advantages of the internal or the GoPro kind of visualization is that we can feel things. We feel the emotion. Maybe we stand and feel what it feels like. We actually go through the motions and feel what that contact point feels like, or whatever the contact point is. I can't play any other golf that uses a ball that moves. But we think about, okay, if I'm going to throw this pass or I'm going to throw this ball, when would the snap come? And I feel it and I watch it at the same time. Kinesthetically, we're pulling everything in. Or even if we're not moving our body and we're just standing there, we can feel what that feeling would be of the contraction of the muscles or whatever it might be. As I often have my soccer players stand up and sort of go through like a gymnast. You can see them sort of going through their motion. Or if you watch acrobat and tumbling, acro, which is a sport that I do a lot of work with, you watch them go through as a team and they're all like moving around and going through just like that. That's the kinesthetic part of it that pulls in the real timing, and that's really good. So there are two ways to do it, and both of them are great. If you can integrate them both into your training, even better. And then finally, the timing, the pacing. Not the pacing, but how often do we need to do this? As a coach, it'd be awesome if you have a visualization station or a mental rehearsal station. That's what we did. When I was coaching, we would have a station. Of course, I loved it because I didn't have to move physically. But they had a script that they were following, or they had some certain thing that they were supposed to watch themselves do in their mind at that station before they went on to whatever was next. Or you can leave a few minutes at the beginning of practice where they can consider all of the skills and rehearse all the skills and drills and plays that they're going to be performing in that 2 or 2.5 hour period. And obviously not in full 2 hours, but a few 5, 10 minutes, even 4 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever you have time for. And then again, post-practice, to watch and rehearse what went well, to embed it and get even more learning and another rep or two into it. And also that's a great time to rescript so that they don't go home with these crappy feelings of what went wrong. Nip it in the bud right there. It's done. Watched it, didn't like it. Here's where I need to be at my adjustment. This is what it's going to look like tomorrow. Now we're leaving with some positive images and feeling better about ourselves. So again, all of this goes back to making us feel more prepared. And we want to be thinking about that. I have 2 things in the tip. If you go to my website today, you can look at the Patella model that talks about putting timing in. There's also the sport visualization accuracy questionnaire. I think that's what it's called, or sport imagery questionnaire that you can rate yourself and those you lead. And then you can sort of figure out which areas need work and you can continue to work. This is a skill. No one comes out of the womb like a perfectionist at this, but we can all get better at seeing things more vividly and incorporating all of our emotion, all of our senses into this to enhance this rehearsal, just like an actor would on the stage. So we want to be thinking about the fact that we can enhance the performance of our teams, of ourselves, by rehearsing things before they happen, or reliving things that were great and rescripting the stuff that we didn't really like. So that was the sport imagery ability questionnaire. There's a link to it in the tip. But by focusing on positive outcomes, we're priming our brain and our body for what we want. We're getting ourselves set up for success. And we can help our athletes, we can help those we lead prep for this by teaching them the importance of using this ability they already have of seeing themselves in their mind's eye and using that to enhance their skills, to help them control their emotions, to have them get the feel for what it's going to be like when we get there in the big game or the first game or whatever game it is, because we know the games are different than practice. It's just the way that it is, but we can be there and be better if we use this tool. If you would like your team to get better at this, I have a 3-session mental rehearsal segment that I would be happy to do with your team, virtually, in person, whatever works for you. But we will go through every aspect of visualization and mental rehearsal, imagery, whatever it is that you want to call it in your program, and help your athletes get a picture of exactly what it is if they don't know, exactly how to do it, and they can figure out and put in their own workings as we go, and then help them structure ways that this tool can enhance their practice, their schoolwork, their conversations, their performance, everything. I would love to do that with your program. There's my cell phone number is in the tip as well. Send me a text, shoot me an email at juliej@ssbperformance.com, and let's get this into your program right away. Why wait? Have a great week. Think about what you're seeing. Think about how what you're seeing can enhance your performance, and I'd love to help you do that. Be well.